and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode number 64, and the title of this episode is I Can't Believe There's Going to Be an Economic Collapse. And the reason why I say this is when you look around and you look at the stock market, it's making all-time highs, the S&P is making all-time highs, and gold is being pushed down below 1400, silver is being pushed down. And to everyone else looking at it, what's the problem? Everything's great. I mean, look, the stock market continually goes up. All the companies are doing well. They're all making profits. There's nothing wrong. But, if you take a closer look, you can see that nothing makes sense. That companies really aren't making profits. Actually, a lot of companies are laying off or being prepared to lay off. So, we have to look at everything and not just the stock market, because the stock market is not a gauge for the entire economy. It's not the gauge of what the government's doing. It's not the gauge of all the laws they're passing. It's not the gauge of the wars they are enacting. Yeah, to the person who's sleeping, everything does look great. And I have a quick story, but before I do that, I just want to say someone yesterday, let me see here. His on YouTube, his name Colin Crum. He did bring to my attention. I said Obama started DHS, but it wasn't. It was Bush before him. Obama has made DHS what it is today, and and having DHS continually grow as this military, non-military force that has nothing to do with the military. And thank you for that. And it's really great that we all, I make mistakes. Hey, it's great that you're following along and you're correcting things that I say. And if something doesn't make sense, let me know. I'll tell you that I made a mistake. I misread something, or sometimes I talk without thinking, and then I go back and go, holy crap, what did I say? But I know two people that just got let go from their jobs, and they are starting to look for jobs, and they're having a tough time right now trying to find jobs, and they're wondering like what's going on, because everything that they hear and they read and everything that the government is telling them is that it should be quite easy to find a job, because the unemployment has come down quite a bit. And they also noticed that the jobs that they do find that are out there, the salaries are lower than what they were making. So, this is a good indication where reality and fiction, start to meet. And for those people who either lose their jobs or are still looking for them, they know what the reality is. Because I remember when there was a good time where there were jobs all over the place. I mean, back then I'd open up a newspaper, and I'm in the technology field. It was you could take your pick. I was going on interviews, 4, 5, 6 times a week, and that is a good job market. Today, you can look on the internet and find hardly any jobs out there. And even when you do send your resume and things like that, most of these people never get back to you. So, you can see where things are not connected, and the reality of the job market and the fictional job market, are starting to butt against each other. Because as more and more people become unemployed, it's getting harder and harder for them to find jobs, and it makes no sense to anyone. But again, you don't know it until you're in it and you see it for yourselves. Now, let's get into the economic collapse news. The the stock market is definitely a disconnect from reality. I mean, the stock market is just going higher and higher and higher, and to me, all that tells me is that we have a really far fall down when it pops, when the bubble bursts. It just, they're building it up so high that it is going to be disastrous when this thing goes. And in this article, I think this was on Zero Hedge, basically it says investors take note, stocks are always the last to get it. This bubble will end as all bubbles do, in a disaster. So, it doesn't matter how high this goes, because when it collapses, people are going to be shocked and stunned of what just happened. Okay. The Eurozone is entering its longest ever slump. The GDP in the quarter shrank by 0.2%, which is worse than 0.1% shrinkage that had been expected. So basically, the bad news is that this is now the Eurozone's longest ever slump. And we know this, the European nations are not doing well because of the massive unemployment, the unemployment numbers of Spain, Portugal, Italy, Cyprus, Greece. We just see it all over the place. And there is no way that in anyone who can see this say that everything is okay, because you wouldn't have unemployment at 12, 15, youth unemployment at 62%. It just doesn't work that way, because the less people employed, the less they're spending in retail, the less that other companies have to manufacture. It's a whole cycle that just completely just falls apart, and we're seeing this over and over and over. And with this gold dropping below 1400 today, to me, I say this is a buying opportunity. I mean, again, I've said this before, but if a HD TV, Best Buy says, we're making this TV half price, people stand outside in lines to buy this TV. As soon as you buy it and you take it home, it starts losing value. In 2 to 3 years, the damn TV's worth zero. You buy the gold or the silver or any other precious metal, and you get it on sale, and let's say it was $1,800, now it's $1,300. Over time, in the next 5, 10 years, it goes up in value. Look at the history. Look at the graph. Go back 30 years. The graph only goes one way, and that is up. Let's even go back further. Even in the Great Depression, when they were confiscating gold, they were giving people $20 an ounce for their gold. As soon as the government had the gold, they upped it to 35. So those people who hid their gold and didn't give it in, all of a sudden went from 20 to 35. And then from that point on, it just kept, after a certain period, it went from 35, up to 150, up to 200, and it kept going after that. So I don't know why everyone is, getting upset. I find this is great. Every time it comes down, except for these damn premiums that they're putting on, I buy more. I find that this is great because I know where it's going. I know the only place it's going up. That's all I know. They can do whatever they want to do. They can smash the paper market. They can do what they have to do because they want the price. Let's think of it this way. The reason why the price is going down because they're trying to make it as cheap as possible for them to buy it. Why do they want to buy on the highs? So let's do what they're doing. They're bringing down the price, the central banks and the governments, the countries, and they're buying it. When the price comes down, they buy even more. Let's just do the same exact thing that they're doing. That's all it is. Now, this is very interesting. Since the price of gold is going down, the Perth Mint is reporting record high gold bullion sales. So if you look, and this is a bullion in troy ounces. January of 2013, it was 65,000 ounces. February, 44,000. March, 50. And April now, 111,000 ounces. And you have to remember, gold was pushed down in April. Remember we had that big drop? That's when they sold most of their gold. Silver, same thing. January, it was 670,000 ounces. February, 426,000 ounces. March, 408,000 ounces. April, when silver was pushed down, 1.1 million ounces of silver sold. So that should tell you something. Everyone is purchasing because they know this is cheaper, and in the long run, they're going to make out. I just buy it and I put it away. It's almost like buying a seed, back in the day when you were getting 12, 14% interest. It's like getting a CD. You buy a 3, 4-year CD. You didn't worry about anything. You couldn't touch it. You couldn't take it out. You just left it there for 3 years because you knew you were getting the interest. Same mindset. Take your precious metal, put it away. It's like a CD. 3 years later, take a look at it. Holy moly. Look what it's at now. So this whole Obamacare thing is just completely out of control. And, the internal cost estimates from 17 of the nation's largest insurance companies indicate that health insurance premiums will grow on an average of 100% under Obamacare, and that some will soar more than 400%. And this, I'm going to tell you right now, for those people who are consultants, real estate agents, who have to purchase this insurance or pay a tax, it is going to destroy them. Companies that have right on the border of the number of employees and the number of hours worked, they're going to reduce the number employed, so there'll be higher unemployment, and they're going to reduce the amount of hours that people work, and those people who have reduced hours now have to go out and purchase health insurance or be taxed for not purchasing health insurance. So this is a no-win situation. And by people making less money, spending money on something that they normally wouldn't spend on, or paying higher premiums, it is going to hurt the economy much more than it is right now. It's going to spiral out of control. And we're going to see this, and there's no way, because there's no way that the government can cover it. Well, there is a way. They can change all their calculations again. They can make it seem like, oh no, the premiums aren't higher. Oh no, unemployment, we had to change the calculations. We're not including whatever they're not including. They're factoring things out. However they want to massage the data to fit their agenda, that's what they'll do. So we can see this in the future not helping. And I don't know. Once the majority of the people get wind of what's happening, because most of the people don't even realize that this passed. Most of the people don't even realize this is coming in 2014. And once they start realizing this, going, wait, what is this on my tax form? I have to indicate what? Wait, what is all this information I need to provide? Why am I being taxed? The American people are it's not gonna sit well, and when they're making less, this is when people, start to do stuff that they normally would do. So this should be interesting. Now on the war front, it looks like India is preparing for a possible two-front war with Pakistan and China. India continues to view Pakistan as the real threat, even though it's adjusting its military strategy to include the possibility of a limited two-front war with both Pakistan and China. So, basically, it looks like, yeah, again, this is a world war. Everyone's going to be involved. It's going to be India, China, the Middle East countries like Syria, Iran, Iraq, Libya, United States, North Korea, South Korea. I mean, just think of all this. Japan, everyone is getting involved now. And if the central bankers and the government can get their way and start this war, again, they've tried everything, but they will take it to the extreme just to get this started because they need to cover up this economic collapse. And the only way to get this started is with an event. We have events lined up on their agenda, on their books, just waiting for the right time. And that right time is approaching. Now, the House GOP lawmaker says we are not backing away on the gun bill. House Republicans are not ruling out passing gun legislation this year, according to a key GOP lawmaker. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi believes the House will deal with guns this year as well. Well, of course they will. The gun bill is pending in the Senate. The UN arms treaty is pending there. CISPA is also pending, which really has nothing to do with guns. But anything that's pending is ready for an event so they can pull that bill right out. And they're saying this because they know for a fact that they will get this done by some type of an event or something happening. And, you know, this will be coming soon. Now, I've discussed once, I think it was last episode, the episode before, about the immigration bill that they want to get passed, that has the facial recognition photograph to link you to your Social Security, to your IRS documentation, to your health care. Basically, it feels like from all the laws and all the agencies that have been erected and passed, like the NDAA, Obamacare, Patriot Act, DHS, FEMA, the FEMA camps that have been set up, the coffins that we've seen, it feels like we're heading towards a Nazi type of show me your documentation, let me see your card that has your face on it and that's linked up to everything, that to your guns. And there are states already, and I believe there was a town in Arizona, and I know New York, where, like New York, they're allowed to frisk you for absolutely no reason. So in Arizona, I believe they ask for your papers for no reason also. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I forgot the name of the town. But this is already starting. And it feels like, back in World War II in the Nazi, when you're walking down the street and you look suspicious or they just don't like the way you look, they ask for your papers. They make sure that your papers are all in order. It's the same thing that's happening here. And it's slowly creeping up on everyone. And most of the people don't even see this happening. Now, there was a breaking story that multiple explosive devices were found in a home near Los Angeles. Now, I don't know any more about this. I just saw this headline, and if something comes out of this, we'll have to watch this. I just wanted to bring that up. And this was an interesting story in RT. Authorities hunting for nuclear gauge lost in West Virginia. Now, a portable gauge containing a dangerous radioactive material fell off the back of a truck in West Virginia, and officials are offering a reward for the missing device. I just want to say, how does something like this fall off the back of a truck? I mean, really, a radioactive device with material, I mean, they don't have this tied down somehow? So, I mean, did it really fall off the truck, or is that all they're saying? Because this sounds a little strange to me, and it just seems something just doesn't sit right with me. So we're gonna have to just watch this. And they go on to say it is critical for anyone who has information about the lost nuclear gauge to contact the Pennsylvania DEP, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, or local law enforcement agency immediately. As long as the device is not tampered with or damaged, it prevents no hazard to public safety. So basically, what I'm thinking, like, holy crap, let's say it didn't just fall off the truck and it was stolen. But, they don't want to get people in a panic. So it's better to say it fell off. You know, it's almost like, yeah, this TV and stereo equipment just fell off the back of the truck. You know what I mean? But let's say somebody has this now, and they connect this to a bomb or something. Now, this is like some type of dirty radioactive type of bomb that can be used in some type of event. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just reading this article. I'm reading what happened. I'm reading what they're telling me and what they're reporting, and my mind starts to wander and wonder what is really going on here. And we're going to have to watch this. Now, yesterday, and I see this more and more articles coming out, and I see more and more people talking about this, and you know how I am with the cyber attacks. And for those people who are new or just signing up, I believe the cyber attack is the perfect storm. I said it yesterday. If you haven't heard what I said, just go back and listen to that broadcast. But I see this general is saying, mark my words, it's going to get worse. This disruptive, destructive attacks on our country will get worse if we don't do something. The theft of intellectual property will get worse. And he goes on to say that we need to do something. But they always mention, basically cyber attacks could well be seen in the not-too-distant future on key U.S. infrastructure sectors such as public utilities, power grid, water supply, and financial services. They always, if you noticed, every time a government official says anything about a cyber attack, it's always two things that they include: infrastructure and banks. Why is that? Because I'm telling you right now, we are getting closer and closer to their main event, and they just keep feeding people and brainwashing them and just making them hear this over and over and over and over and over again. So this way, when you look back, yes, they're right. The officials warned us all along that this would happen, and they already said for many, many months, going back even a year, that it could be Iran, China. They named every country. North Korea, Aunt May out in Canada. It could be anybody. So the American people who are sleeping, they'll be able to look back and see all this information. And when it happens, they can get angry, pissed off, and this is going to work completely to their advantage. Now, if for those people who are new who don't know about the cyber attacks, I'm going to just say this really briefly. I'm not going to go into the whole thing. If you want to hear what I say, just go back to my other episodes. I say it in much more detail. But this is a perfect storm where they can do many different things. Shut the power off for many weeks. Shut the water. Steal your money from the banks. Blame it on a country. Bring us into war. Get the American people angry enough to have many bills passed, also to clear martial law because of the rioting and people not being, settled down because they let it go weeks and weeks before they turn the power back on. This would be the perfect scenario, better than bringing the World Trade Center down, better than Pearl Harbor, because those incidents, even better than the Boston bombing, which was a fiasco, because those things took place in very specific areas. This takes place everywhere, all at once. Everyone feels it at the same time. You're not removed from it, you're in it. And this will be the main event. Okay, let's move on here. Now there was an interesting article, and I put this on the X22 site on this page, and I also am going to put this article on the article section of the site. How some states did not legally ratify the 16th Amendment, and basically the 16th Amendment is, the the uh, the formation of the IRS and the ability to tax the people. So basically, this is what the 16th Amendment says. It allows the United States Congress to levy an income tax without apportioning it among the states or basing it on census results. The amendment exempted income taxes from constitutional requirements regarding direct taxes after income taxes on rents, dividends, and interest were ruled to be direct taxes. So basically, it says the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. So basically, this is the 16th Amendment. Now, what this article is saying is that the 16th Amendment was not ratified. And it goes on to say the 16th Amendment had been sent out in 1909 to the state governors for ratification by the state legislators after having been passed by Congress. There were 48 states at that time, and 3/4 or 36 of them were required to give their approval in order for it to be ratified. The process took almost the whole term of the Taft administration from 1909 to 1913. Knox had received responses from 42 states when he declared the 16th Amendment ratified on February 25th, 1913. Interesting, 1913. Isn't that when the Fed was started? Okay. Just a few days before leaving office to make way for the administration of Woodrow Wilson. Knox acknowledged that 4 of those states, Utah, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire, had rejected it, and he counted 38 states as having approved it. We will now examine some of the key evidence Bill Benson found regarding the approval of the amendment in many of those states. In Oklahoma, the legislation changed the wording of the amendment so that its meaning was virtually the opposite of what was intended by Congress, and this was the version they sent back to Knox. Yet Knox counted Oklahoma as approving it, despite a memo from its chief legal counsel, Reuben Clark, that states were not allowed to change it in any way. Attorneys who have studied the subject have agreed that Kentucky and Oklahoma should not have been counted as approvals by Philander Knox, and moreover, if any state could be shown to have violated its own state constitution or laws in its approval process, when that state's approval would have to be thrown out. That gets us past the presumptive conclusion argument, which says that the actions of the executive official cannot be judged by a court, and admits that Knox could be wrong. If we subtract Kentucky and Oklahoma from the 38 approval, the count now is at 36, the exact number needed for ratification. If any more states can be shown to have been invalid approvals, the 16th Amendment must be regarded as null and void. Texas and Louisiana violated provisions in their state constitutions prohibiting the legislatures from empowering the federal government with any additional taxing authority. Now the number is down to 33. How much more it is to authenticate a constitutional amendment, yet a number of states did not do this, returning uncertified, unsigned, and or unsealed copies, and did not rectify their negligence even after being reminded and warned by Knox. The most egregious offenders were Ohio, California, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Minnesota, which did not send any copy at all, so Knox could not have known what they even voted on. Since 4 of these states were already disqualified above, California is now subtracted from the list of valid approvals, reducing it to 20. So basically, it goes on to say, and I skipped some of the things, so that's why the count might seem off, but it goes on to say, that we didn't have the number of states to actually ratify the 16th Amendment. And it didn't really matter. They just did whatever they wanted to do. And the 16th Amendment was, they just said it was ratified. So, you know, so basically, from what this is saying, that all these taxes and everything are null and void. And again, they need these taxes because of the Fed. Because when you borrow money and you need to repay it on interest, you need the taxes from the people to pay the interest on the debt. And this is why they needed the 16th Amendment, and they needed this to go forward. So basically, we're living in an environment, and as we find out more and more of laws and amendments and things that they try to pass always seem to be in the dead of night. It always seems to be in the 12th hour. It always seems to be buried in thousands of pages of documentation. It always seems not to be legal, just like we see what's going on with Obamagate. And I'll just call it Obamagate because it's Benghazi, IRS, the phone and wiretapping of the Associated Press and other news agencies. There is a lot going on, and it always seems there is a different angle, and they're doing these things on purpose for their agenda. And we can see this over and over, and they always seem to create an event to knock our view away from what's really going on. And they are experts at this. And if you have never seen Wag the Dog, see that movie, because it is amazing the way, something comes up, they need a story, they make us look someplace else with a distraction. A lot is going on right now. They're going to need a lot of events, a lot of distractions. And another thing that's interesting, back in 2008, I'm going a little off track here, I noticed right before the crash, and I think I mentioned this before in one of my other episodes, that gold, go look on Kitco and take the graph from 2007 to 2008 and look at the graph from 2013 right now, the end of 2012 to 2013. Right before the crash of 2008, gold went down, and it was pushed down. Not as far as it's being pushed down now, but it was pushed pretty far over many days. It dropped. And I find the pattern very interesting that it happened a couple of months right before the crash, and the same thing is happening now. And this also corresponds with the DH Insider from Hagman and Hagman. And if you don't know his site, it's the HomelandSecurityUS.com. And if you look up DH Insider, they said during the spring, look for the dips in gold and silver. That's how you know we're getting closer to the economic collapse. And I just find it, and they said this back in, I think it was December of 2012, that right now we're in May, because he also said in the springtime, we are seeing these dips, which is amazing to me that it's happening right now. And we see many other things happening. Even though it looks, like everything is fine, and you really can't believe, because when you walk out your door and you go, for those who have a job, go to work, you earn an income, you go food shopping, you talk to other people, and you kind of forget, like, is this true? Is this really happening? And it's I guess, our way of coping and dealing with it. And then you come back to it and you say, you know what? There's too much evidence. There's too much real hard facts that point us to yes, there is a collapse. And how can't other people see this when you leave and you stop listening to the alternative media like myself, or other people, that like Greg Hunter from USA Watchdog, or you listen to Greg Mandarino, or you listen to Peter Schiff. I mean, I don't just look at the conspiracies and things like that. If you look at the actual economists or investors, and you go onto those sites and they're telling you, something's not right. Like, for instance, those people that predicted 2000, like Peter Schiff, Mark Farber, Gerald Celente, Jim Rogers, and it goes on and on and on. And then you start listening to them, and they're not conspiracy. They're looking at investments. They're investing, and they're telling you something's not right. There's a disconnect between this market and what's really going out on in the world. And there are people that live in bubbles, and there are people that live, in places where I don't see it. And then there's other people that live in the heart of it, like in Detroit. And I noticed someone posted that the Detroit mayor just quit. I don't know if that's true, but I just saw it. We can look it up and see if it's true. But, the emergency team that was brought in there reported that it's worse than they ever thought that it was. If we look in Michigan, when did you ever hear a school district firing their teachers with no pay and just leaving the students high and dry? I mean, the teachers said we would even teach for a week for free. But you look at this and you say, there's something wrong. When the news report comes out back in, when was it, January, February sometime, where thousands of retail stores are going to be closing, something is wrong. When Europe reports they have the highest unemployment that they have ever seen, youth unemployment is 62%. Cyprus the people of Cyprus were robbed of their money, and it was replaced with stocks from a bank that went under. Greece, the number of bailouts and the high unemployment there. The documentation that countries are enacting and going with, the bail-ins of, governments will no longer bail us out, so now we have to take it from the people. The wars that are being started right now, the laws that were enacted, our rights being chipped away. We are not wrong. We are right. We're dealing with fact, not fiction, not conspiracy. This is actual black and white on paper that we're seeing. And there's no other reason you would need this. Why didn't we need all these things back in 1908? Why didn't we need all these things back in 1950? Because the major collapse is coming, and it's not just the U.S., it's just not England, it's just not Australia, it's just not any other nation. It's the entire world, and especially the central banking world that is affected by this, because it's ran its course. The debt is astronomical. It's a house of cards, and one wrong little move, the entire house comes crumbling down, and that's what they're nervous about. That's what they're getting prepared for. This is what they're saying. This, from every document, from everything that they say, from everything that we see, this is what they're talking about. Listen, everyone, thanks for listening today. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks.